Hello and welcome everyone to yet another video of Path of Exile builds. This time I'll be showing you the challenge build which I have created in the 3.3 in the 3.2 Bestiary League. The idea of this build was to gather all sorts of cool microtransactions and harmonize them well enough. As you can see, the result is awesome. Jokes apart, the idea for this build to me was to have a crit-based character for casting lightning-based spell. For that, I have chosen Arc because it has a good crit chance and chance to shock things. Uh, in this build, you may find that instead of taking the lightning damage nodes in the tree, I have mostly concentrated my focus on taking the crit chance, crit multiplier, and spell damage nodes. For this build, I mostly needed two uniques. One is the Void Battery unique wand for its +1 to maximum power charges, and also for its 25% increased spell damage per power charge. Since I went with the Shadow Assassin character, I eventually managed to have 8 power charges up and running almost the entire length of mapping. So which means that gives me around 200% increased spell damage per power charge, in spite of its having a 80% reduced spell damage modifier on it. So this one is my end game choice of weapon. And apart from that, the other unique which I used is the Essence Worm Unset Ring, and this one is due to the ignore the mana reservation cost for the Wrath aura, which tremendously boosts the damage output of the arc spell. Apart from that, I used a couple of Storm Prison for leveling and generating the power charges quite easily, because they have like some 30% chance of gaining a power charge on kill, and they add some lightning damage to them. So wielding 2 gave me 2 additional power charges. So at the very beginning I was like at a 5 power charges at minimum, which helped me a lot with the leveling process. Uh, Apart from that, rest of the gears are filled with the rare items to fill in the resist, the life, flat life requirement, and some stat requirements as well. Now, coming to the gem links that I've been running in this setup, my primary skill Arc is linked with the increased critical damage support, then with Arcane Surge, then with Lightning Penetration, added lightning damage, and Innervate support. I initially thought of using Elemental Focus instead of added lightning damage, but eventually I went with the added lightning damage, as you can see. But maybe it can be used with some other support chains, um, gems. For example, chains could be used because Arc do chain quite well, and for clearing speed you might need chaining as well. But I did not go for it. Maybe you can give it a try and get a better result of it. Apart from the arc, my other skill is a ball lightning setup, which is effectively running on uh, a 6 link. Uh, I've got this Shaper gloves, which actually cost me quite a fortune. But anyway, it is having two implicit properties, like the supported gems are supported by level 18 slower projectiles and level 18 trap. Then I have further added the cluster trap, elemental focus, and concentrated effect to boost the ball lightning damage. The idea was to, throw the traps for the bosses, but somehow it does not work that well. Uh, maybe due to the cluster trapping, or I don't know, but I haven't investigated that one so far. Um, I at this moment at level 73, so I need a bit of a more leveling going on. And for that, I'm not killing the bosses at this moment. I'm just clearing the packs and the maps and gaining the XP and leaving the map as it is without killing the boss. Uh, for my damage auras, as you already seen, I'm using Wrath for that flat lightning damage. Then apart from that, I'm using Herald of Ice and Herald of Thunder. They are both increasing my damage significantly. Herald of Thunder providing me that flat lightning damage to the spells, and Herald of Ice, of course, with its icy shatters and the crit chances. I'm, as you can see, running an Ice Golem and also running a Val Haste for some emergency getaways and faster castings. I've linked the Flame Dash with faster casting for quick movement, as every sane man would use. And for my Val skill, I'm using Val Stormcall with increased duration and increased area of effect uh, for some extra coverage. So that is pretty much it with the gem setup. Although this character is based on mostly based on intelligence, it still suffers from the mana regeneration a bit, especially if you start spamming the skill quite often. As you can see, it goes down pretty fast. It comes up somewhat fast, but at times you wish that you had more mana regen than this, but again, you cannot ask too many things. I could use a clarity with this, but then probably I have to run it with the blood magic, reserving some amount of my life for it. Initially I was running with it and I was dying quite a lot, so I decided not to use it, and later on I realized that since I am having an Arcane Surge here, so at certain interval of time I was getting a good amount of mana regeneration, and it wasn't a problem that much. Apart from the uniques which I thought that is required for the build, I'm also running few unique flasks. As you can see, I'm running the Vessel of Vingtar for that added lightning damage. But the thing is that ideally you should be running the lightning penetration version of it. I didn't get it because they were too expensive and I didn't want to spend any more chaos on them, so yeah, that's what it is. Kiara's determination for that immunity to freeze, chill, curses and stuns. Although this is a life based character, but I thought that maybe running a stun immunity and you know freeze and curse immunity would be better, apart from getting the onslaught from this because it's essentially a silver flask. And finally the overflowing chalice to fill all these flasks up quite fast. I'm also running a diamond flask for making my crit chances extremely lucky, as you might call it. And finally a life flask which removes bleeding, and it's a bubbling, so yeah, I can get some instant refill as well. The DPS at this moment is 5,000, little over 5,500. With the power charges up, it goes like around 10 to 12,000, and with all the flask up, it goes like around 18,000 or something. What I can say that at this point of time, the damage is quite okay. I'm not complaining with the damage. Maybe Arc lacks a bit in the clear speed, but it's not that significant of a problem. Besides, it was a fun project to work with. It's not that it has to be a very efficient one, and of course it's not a starter build as well, because as you can see there are few items which are somewhat uh, expensive to begin with, so I really do not recommend that you start a league with this. So that is pretty much with the setup. The rest of the things that you can see, as I mentioned, goes for filling up the resistance, life and some stats. Now let me quickly show you the passive tree that I have completed so far. I went with mostly few of the initial elemental damage nodes that is there at the beginning of shadow area, and then I pretty much went with all the big uh, crit damage multiplier you know, uh, notable keystones that are there, notable passives that are there. For example, Doomcast is there. Then I've taken the Annihilation, and then finally the Arcane Potency. You can find it here in the Templar region. And with the pathing, of course, you need to take up all the three essential power charges which are there: infused, instability, and finally here as overcharged. And rest, as you can see, they are pretty much filling up the life, and that was kind of it with the tree. My ultimate goal completed tree would be to complete the Cyan Life Weed, then get the lives from here, and then finally complete these two paths from here to reach Breath of the Lightning and Heart of Thunder. So that would pretty much complete the tree that the way I wanted. But as of now, the damage is pretty good. The only thing that matters is that the uncapped resistances that I still have here. As you can see, I have not yet reached capping with my resistances, which is somewhat of a lame from my side. I can do that, but I probably do not have that will to go on with it, because of course it's the end of the league, and also a bit higher percentage of life would have been really better, because essentially shadows or witches, so to speak of, they really do not have much of a mitigation. I didn't go for the mind over matter because I do have fair amount of mana reserved here for my auras and heralds. And finally, with the ascendancy tree, my progress was like unstable infusion and then deadly infusion for the normal, then cruel lab. Then for the merciless lab, I went with opportunist for, of course, that um, 20% increased movement speed, which comes in really handy. And the damage from my critical strikes cannot be reflected, so which means I could run the reflect maps, but I haven't tried it. I only got one roll of elemental reflect and I re-rolled it. I don't know why. I should have tried it there and see and let you all know the results, but I didn't. Again, I'm sorry for that. And my final points would go in ambush and assassinate, for of course they make more sense rather than to go with noxious strike. So that is all in all in the tree. And finally, let me show you some action here. Let me just open this one, fire up a map. I'm not running with any mod, it is just to purely to demonstrate how this build works, and hopefully I won't die.
Low on mana.
Play dead. Good doggy.
Turning out to be pretty bad. As you can see, it helps a lot.
Low on mana.
Come on. Okay, finally it is done. I don't know how I survived, but apparently I did. Again, I don't know how I survived. Exactly don't know how this is happening, but it is happening. Uh-oh, now I'm dead. Okay, I'm not gonna even try to kill the boss, but all I can say that, as you've seen the power of it. So, let's get back to hideout. So, as a conclusion, I can tell you that this is somewhat close to a glass can. Not exactly one, because you could do the changes and at least cap your resist, for crying out loud, which I didn't do. And you might get a couple of hundred life more in it, so like 4.3, 4.4 life maybe. And yeah, it would be some half decent sort of a build, but of course it won't be, you know, something that can tank everything and anything. But the damage, as you can see, even at level 73, it is quite good. I'm very happy with it. Maybe I really need to practice a bit more of my theory crafting, but somehow I have still managed to put this up, and I can do tier 6 maps as well. May not be alked up maps, but yeah, I can still do that. And yeah, that's it. That's all I want to say. It's not a starter build, but it looks cool. The theory behind it is cool, at least I think so. And of course, again, the microtransactions. Anyway, thank you for watching this. Hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all in the next video.